So Bleu De Chanel, the original, is a 10 out of 10 in terms of closeness. I'd give my monstrosity, let's say Omar's Bleu Channel, I'm going to give it a... I am proud to say that our own brand, Atrium Fragrance, which provides unique perfumery for the modern gentleman, has now come out with our Connoisseur Discovery Set. If you want to experience our collaborative work with legendary perfumer John Stephen, we'll leave a link in the description down below for you to experience our set. Welcome back to another rendition of Omar's amateur perfumery, also known as bedroom perfumery. Today we have a very interesting video. You may have seen in episode 2, I attempted to recreate Versace the Dreamer, and that went pretty badly. What's your final answer?
No, I don't think they smell similar.
So today I thought I would attempt to do something similar again, because I did not learn my lesson. I'm going to try and recreate Bleu De Chanel, the eau de parfum specifically. It's a beloved blue fragrance. I kind of started off the genre in modern times. Fresh, citrusy, ginger, ambery, has that brightness mixed with the darkness in there, making it a perfect balanced signature. And I'm here to basically destroy it and make a monstrosity out of a similar idea. Today's video is kind of showing you how perfume formulations in reality are not the same as note breakdowns. So we're going to actually try and recreate this fragrance based on the note breakdowns. I kind of have most of the ingredients that Bleu De Chanel has in its notes in the eau de parfum version. And I'm going to basically prove to you guys that fragrance formulas in reality are around 100 plus ingredients. Obviously, it varies. Molecular one is one ingredient, but in reality, for most complete fragrances that are multifaceted, they are very long lists of formula, around 100 ingredients. Even if it's just one drop of certain different strong ingredients, that kind of makes it have a very subtle effect. You can get very complex ingredients that are around 100 lines, all the way to 200 different lines, a line being one more material. I'm going to show you my process of how I would clone a fragrance. You want to, of course, whenever you're doing your own perfumery, make sure you have no fragrance on you so you're not affecting your nose. I've already failed in that regard, guys. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do one spray of Bleu De Chanel on our test strip and give ourselves a reminder of how the fragrance smells and really try to analyze it deeply. It's citrusy, it smells a little bit warm, ambery, a little bit watery, honestly. And one of those notes in there, that melon note, maybe explaining why I'm getting that slight watery effect. Probably has a high amount of dihydromercenol, which is that note that gives a fresh out of the shower effect that blue fragrances have. It's aromatic, it's clean, but in a very smooth, very non-cloying way. It's just very beautifully done, like a very creamy mintiness is here, for example. This is beautifully blended. It smells complex. I just know I'm not gonna get anything close to this. There are websites like Creative Formulas that I think use GCMS, and I've actually tested one of Sam Macer's formulas he made with that website. I think I said it was around 70% similar. I think those websites are not exact, but they're kind of there to let you try out new perfumery formulas, new ideas, and really just learn perfumery. You get a kind of similar fragrance in the end. Maybe I'll do a video on them in a later episode. But today I'm going to show you my method of doing things, of cloning a fragrance without GCMS, just my amateur nose. I've smelled Bleu De Chanel, reminded myself of what it smells like. I'm going to now start creating fragrances from the base. So you guys might know from my episodes that I like to create fragrances from the base. I think basically every perfumer likes to do this. You create a fragrance from the base, the foundations, and you work your way up, creating the heart and then the top of the notes pyramid. We've got sandalwood in the base. I've got something called Javanol here, which is a very sharp synthetic sandalwood note. I do not think it's natural. I think they're using natural sandalwood in Bleu De Chanel, but we've got to use what we have, guys. I'm going to put in a very small amount of this stuff. We have amberwood, cedar, amber. Again, Bleu De Chanel is a very complex fragrance, but I have one material here called Cedramber, which is basically a potentially strong cedarwood amber note. Online people say it's a powerful base note, but I think I just go nose blind to this material. I just don't detect it. I'm really bad at detecting Hedione as well, unless I walk away from the scent strip and come back the next day. Some noses just pick up certain materials better than others. Everyone's nose is different. We're more sensitive to different materials depending on the individual. But yeah, I'm going to basically substitute those three notes with just Cedramber, which is cedarwood, which is a dry woody note with amber. It's in the name. Hopefully gets the same effect. By the way, guys, at the end of the video, I'm going to compare Bleu De Chanel to my creation, and I'll let you know in my brutal, honest truth how close I am percentage-wise. Labdanum I do have. I'll use that. That is quite a thick ambery floral note. I think Labdanum can also be known as rock rose. Very heavy, very thick. It actually is part of most amber accords. Amber as a note is an accord, usually of Labdanum, vanillin, and some sort of musk. I don't have incense, so I'm going to use tobacco. It kind of gives a similar effect, not really, but hey, it's the closest thing I have. Patchouli, of course, I have that. It's an earthy green base note that gives a little longevity to your fragrance. It is iconic in perfumery, iconic in culture. A lot of hippies used to wear it back in the day on its own. It's a must-have for any perfumer, would-be perfumer trying to get started at home. I'm now going to turn off the mic. I'm going to mix the fragrances together using the fanning method that I mentioned in episode 3 of this series. So basically combining the scent strips together of individual notes, seeing how strong each note is in comparison to try and guess or try and estimate what kind of proportions I should use. This is your skill as a perfumer. And using the perfume fanning effect, you see if notes work together. I'm kind of going to force these notes together either way, even if they don't work, because I'm basically just forcing a clone out of this video. So let's begin. So to show you what I mean, guys, I've just combined the first 2 ingredients of Javanol and Patchouli. Sandalwood and Patchouli are a classic combination, so I don't feel like I'm forcing anything here. Javanol is a very potent molecule, so I've put around 8 drops of that compared to 32 of Patchouli, so it's around a ratio of 2 to 8. The more drops you use, the easier it is to create the formula because you're using more easy to work with volumes, working with something very small. So sometimes it's good to multiply how many drops you go for. And officially, you should use grams, not drops, but this is bedroom perfumery, guys. We're just having fun getting into it, so it doesn't matter too much, in my opinion. Just kind of have fun with it. And then I'm going to dip my patchouli, sandalwood, little mixture here, see if it works, if I got the proportions right. I think so. It smells smooth, well balanced. I'm now going to use this test strip of the mixture here with a dipped test strip of Cedramber and do a similar thing, basically, as I go along, adding each note in there, seeing how much of each note I should add, how the proportions work together as I'm smelling them, basically seeing how strong each note is, if that makes sense. So I've got my sandalwood patchouli mix and the Cedramber on another strip here. I'm fanning them and passing them by my nose to see what kind of proportions I think should be combined. This is a good method, guys. I do generally think it does work. You kind of have to do it to see that it does work. You got to see it to believe it, basically. But because I'm going probably nose blind to Cedramber, I feel like my nose is telling me to add quite a lot of it. So I've got now, about 40 drops in total from that previous combination. I think 8 drops of Cedramber should be added. I'm writing this formula down on my phone as I'm going along. You should write it on a piece of paper on your phone to keep track of your formulation. So I'm going to keep doing this for the rest of the base section of the fragrance. So I've just added the Cedramber and the Labdanum in, and so far the blend is actually working really nicely together. It goes to show that although this is a very casual, just fun video, that the formula probably does revolve around these main notes that just work together, and you are actually still learning a lot here, learning what perfume materials work together. You can see the pros do it in their final creations, and so you know that the final formula does revolve around these notes, so you're still learning a lot actually. This is really interesting. Okay, I've just added the last few drops of tobacco in there because I don't want this to be a too heavy tobacco fragrance. I don't feel like that's the main character of Bleu De Chanel. I don't think it's a mainly incense fragrance, more of a subtle supporting note. And yeah, I think this all works. Woody, ambers, patchouli, a bit of tobacco in there. The tobacco isn't really playing a huge role. It's smooth. I probably added a tiny bit too much patchouli. That's the thing with perfumery, guys. In reality, if you're making a professional final development, you want to be doing a little trial and error. You want to be adding small amounts because once you add something too much, you can't take it away. It's kind of like cooking. So it's better to play it safe, add small amounts, small increments. But I think this works overall for our use today in our very casual video. Smelling Bleu De Chanel, yeah, it smells a lot more clean and airy. So maybe we can fix that in the heart. We can add some lifting agents that kind of space it out a bit more so it's not so thick and dense like we have in our base right now. But not a bad start. It's kind of getting there, kind of in the same realm as Bleu De Chanel. Let's see how this turns out. Let's go to the heart notes. I can't believe it, guys. I've noticed recently that 40% of you who watch the channel are subscribed to us. Thank you so much to everyone who subscribed so far. If you want to see our channel grow even further, go ahead and click subscribe. Let's get that number to 45%. Thank you. In the heart, we have ginger, which is like a warm, fiery, spicy note. If you've ever cooked with ginger, you know it. I have that. Very good. Nutmeg, okay, a little bit warm as well. I don't think we need to add too much because nutmeg kind of gives too much of a warm fragrance. We want Bleu De Chanel, our Bleu De Chanel, to be fresh. I've got jasmine and melon. So Actually, I'm gonna add some Calone here. Calone is an aquatic note. This is a very classical aquatic note in perfumery. A lot of people say it smells a bit like cucumbers or it smells a bit like watermelon. So it's like melon or watermelon ketones, I think some people call it. So I think that's how they're getting the effect here in Bleu De Chanel, but a very small amount. We're not making an aquatic fragrance. Bleu De Chanel is not aquatic, but it kind of has a slight aspect of it. I'm gonna add tiny amounts of all these hard notes. I'm also gonna add Hedione because that's pretty much in all modern fragrances these days. It gives a very airy, easy lightness to a scent, so that's probably what's going to make our fragrance smell less dense and thick like we have it right now also. Hedione is also a constituent of jasmine, so probably actually the jasmine note is just coming from Hedione. I don't want to add too much of the real stuff, maybe 1 drop, so I can say it's there, but I think I'm going to add maybe Hedione as the jasmine note here. I'm freestyling a bit here, guys, but I'm almost certain that it's going to be in this fragrance formulation of Bleu De Chanel. So let me do the same process as the base notes and make the heart of the fragrance also, and I'll come back to you in a second. So I've just added the heart notes of the fragrance, my monstrosity of a clone, guys. And I added a very small amount of the spices, the ginger and the nutmeg. I added quite a bit of Hedione, because Hedione you can add in large amounts. It doesn't really ruin your fragrance. It just gives it more of a mainstream, airy effect. Calone as well gave it more of a mainstream shower gel effect, I would say. It's a bit more watery, a bit more fresh, not so earthy like the initial base notes were. Jasmine as well, actually, I was surprised. I feel like it needed 1 drop, because I feel like with really powerful notes like jasmine, you can get a really great effect by just adding a small touch. Actually, these kind of notes can ruin a formulation, but they can also just really enhance it if you just go very light with the additions. Jasmine, I will say, is like almost gives like a laundry linen effect to your fragrance, and Hedione is like the pure effect of that. It's like pure laundry, cleanliness, and they're just very useful materials, both of them. This is smelling better. It's smelling pretty good. It's smelling like more of a complete fragrance. Definitely, when I go back to the original Bleu De Chanel, I just feel like an absolute amateur. It still feels just so much more smooth and rich. But let's do the top notes and then decide after that. By the way, guys, if you're getting confused by this video, as in how am I measuring my fragrances, how am I adding everything, how am I holding my scent strips, you know, what equipment am I using, make sure you are checking out episode 1 to understand what gear I'm using and what you kind of need to get into perfumery at home. So then these videos make more sense and are easier to understand and follow along. In the top notes, I don't really have pink pepper or aldehydes, and I'm just not sure what kind of aldehydes they're using. I guess some cloudy, fresh ones based on this picture. But I see grapefruit, I have that, lemon, mint, I have spearmint, so I can potentially use that, bergamot and coriander. I can use those 5 materials from what I have in my repertoire. Peppermint is actually a base note. Presumably they're using spearmint, which I believe is more of a top and hard note, which has more of a fresh effect. Peppermint's a bit more earthy again, so I'm not going to use too much because the fragrance is already quite base heavy as it is. We've got bergamot here, we've got lemon, we've got the good stuff, grapefruit oil, which I think just disappears super fast. And we've got coriander, which I have as a hard note in my equipment, but they're saying Bleu De Chanel's a top note. A lot of fragrance notes actually kind of overlap. They have top note aspects, they have hard note aspects, they also can have base note aspects. So, you know, take it all with a pinch of salt. It's all very complex and there's an infinite amount of knowledge to learn and read about, really. With top notes, you can kind of go quite liberal with citruses because they dissipate so quickly. They're quite inoffensive, easy to add to your creation. Coriander kind of gives this spicy pop, this nice freshness. Actually, I think this is potentially could be a very good top note in general, actually. Even though it's a hard note in my equipment, it's just very clean and fresh. It kind of gives you that citrus effect without using a citrus. It kind of only makes sense if you smell the materials yourself. And peppermint is quite earthy, heady. It's not the same as spearmint, so I'm going to go quite light with that, maybe 1 or 2 drops. So let me add all the top notes. We'll go quite liberal with my citruses, and then we'll get to our final finished results. Oh yeah, that spearmint, or the peppermint, sorry, definitely gives that chewing gum minty vibe, like when you bite into a chewing gum. It's given a lot more airiness, more freshness, a lot more resemblance to Bleu De Chanel, which is a good addition. I think I've added the perfect amount. I added only 4 drops. It's such a nice material. It just has that minty gum freshness. I really wish more materials would use this. Maybe we should release a mint fragrance in Atrium, another one. We already did it with Mr. Momentum. Maybe I'll make another one that approaches it in a new way. Yeah, that was a great addition. I love that material. I'm going to use it more often. Okay, I've technically completed my fake formula of Bleu De Chanel. I've added all my citruses. I didn't add too many citruses in the end because actually I felt like the creation I made doesn't actually really need that much sharp freshness. It's actually missing something else. When I pick up the scent strip with Bleu De Chanel on it, I actually realized that I'm missing a lot of amber in my creation. It doesn't feel as rich and alive because it has just such a gorgeous amber accord in Bleu De Chanel that I'm just realizing now that, again, this kind of video is kind of useful in that way because it makes you appreciate certain aspects of a fragrance that you may have taken for granted before when you're just wearing it casually. The peppermint was a great addition. I didn't add that much coriander, but again, it made this a lot more sharp and fresh. A really nice few drops in there was really good in here. The grapefruit was the main citrus I added. I'm wondering if they're using a different kind of grapefruit because this one's quite sharp and fresh. Maybe there's a sweeter grapefruit, I'm not sure. But yeah, the original is of course made by the master. I think it's Olivier Paulge who made it. It's just better than what I've made. I've used the wrong sandalwood. Some of my ingredients smell rotten. I've had some of these ingredients for more than 3 years, so it's about time for me to replace them at some point. I didn't store them optimally either. So that's my bad, but I'm just gonna make one more change. I'm going to see if I can fix this lack of amber in my creation by adding a little bit more Labdanum, which is a thick, heavy amber note, as I mentioned before, and I'm going to see if I can save what I've made. But it's actually not that bad overall, pretty good. It's not exactly Bleu De Chanel, but pretty nice. So I'm just going to add some Labdanum to this monstrosity I've made. So I've now added the extra Labdanum. There was already 3 drops in the formulation. By the way, guys, I'll actually leave my full formula in the video description down below, so if you do want to recreate this at home, you can if you really want to see what I'm experiencing. I definitely made it a big step in the right direction. I think I was accurate in my judgment of that. This is not bad actually. So what is my final verdict? If we say the original Bleu De Chanel is 10 out of 10 in terms of being close to Bleu De Chanel, it is the original, then I will say my creation is sort of like the £5, like let's say Poundland, or like the £5 really obvious knockoff version of it you'd find in a very convenient, cheaper store. But it's kind of in the right direction. I really like this video and this idea because it does give you the main ideas of the original fragrance. You're never going to be as good as the master perfumer who takes years to build their accord. I just feel like some of my ingredients just aren't as good quality. Some of them have rotted away, honestly, and I just feel like they made like a really beautiful amber accord. Olivier Paulge probably took decades to create his own amber accords. Perfumers have their own style, but based on their accords, their perfumers base, they take time to make combinations that they know just work, and they can just keep re-adding to different creations, kind of gives them their signature feel for each perfumer. Bleu De Chanel is a beautiful creation. This video makes me appreciate it more, but let's put both of them on skin actually. So let's have my monstrosity there on my right hand, Bleu De Chanel on my left hand. Yeah, it's cool to smell your own creation. It's nice, woody, ambery, patchouli base. It actually works. You wouldn't think, you'd be surprised like how you can actually get involved in perfumery. I think that's the whole point of this series, guys. I want you guys to get involved and hopefully start the hobby yourselves. If I inspire even just one person to do that, I think this series would be a success, because it goes to show that, if you put a bit of time and effort, use the fanning method. I know it seems a bit long, but it makes a huge difference. It makes you take your time, make sure you're blending things in the right way, things that work together and in the right proportions. You just have a bit of practice, and it's like you can draw a good picture, but you might not be a master painter, but you can still draw something that's very nice to look at. Bleu De Chanel is deeper, richer, has more going on. It probably has a bit of coumarin in here, which is like the main constituent of tonka bean. Probably missing that. Probably missing some dihydromercenol. So these are some of the things I would add. I would just have better quality ingredients. But actually, you would think that, I think you can kind of identify that this is trying to recreate Bleu De Chanel. Did I give this a rating? I can't remember. So Bleu De Chanel, the original, is a 10 out of 10 in terms of closeness. I'd give my monstrosity, let's say Omar's Bleu Channel, I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 10. Not bad. I think this worked out quite nicely, and I got the main ideas down of Bleu De Chanel. I know what kind of notes work together quite well, and I had fun. I learned more perfumery. I can take some of the ideas I made from this blend and take it to my other creations. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Did you find it entertaining? Do you find it useful? Maybe I'll do a more serious video such as creating basic perfumery accords in our next iteration. This is more of a fun video, but still actually surprisingly educational in my opinion, at least for me anyways, but hopefully it was for you also. What are your thoughts as someone who wants to get into perfumery, or potentially you're already doing perfumery at home? Do you find just looking at the notes of a fragrance and just trying to recreate it at home based on the note breakdown, which of course is not a full formula, do you find that useful? Let us know in the comments down below, guys, because maybe some of you are actually already doing this as well, similar to me. And what do you think of my experiment? Do you think this is a good method? Maybe you guys agree or disagree with it if you have any experience in perfumery. And if you guys were confused by some of the processes in today's video, as I said before, make sure you are checking out episode 1 up here to make sure you see what kind of gear and kit I'm using. That'll make things a little more clear for you. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Class dismissed. Bye.